Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics. I have an adorable project for you today. This DIY accordion pouch is just the sweetest little thing. Now the little rosette is a separate video at the end of this video, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you don't miss series of videos or you're always up to date on our newest projects. We have DIY, everything, and plenty of quilt patterns as well. Now you'll want to, whenever you're doing our projects, on our home page at the very bottom, there's a link that says free downloads. Go ahead and click there and you will be able to download the DIY accordion pouch. It's a 2-page pattern. Go ahead and print out those on regular 8.5 by 11 paper. And of course you'll just cut out your patterns on the drawn lines, on the solid lines. And this little pouch, besides being absolutely precious, would make a great gift. In fact, when I'm traveling to different quilt retreats, sometimes I'm trying to be minimalist when I go on these retreats because I only have so much space. Of course, I'd love to take my whole sewing studio with me, but it's not possible. So things like this sewing pouch, now I have my embroidery floss in there, I have needles, I have my wonder clips for when I'm binding small projects. So this is just really a neat little thing for multiple uses. You could put makeup in there. This particular fabric is the Fleurs collection by Brenda Riddle from Motive Fabrics. We love our Motive Fabrics and I love Brenda Riddle. She always has these beautiful shabby chic style fabrics. And this is a fat quarter friendly project. We just picked some very pretty fabrics. You'll want one for the outside. If you want your inside to be another fabric, you'll pick another one. And then your pouch inside will be, you could either pick 1 or 2 fabrics for the pouch inside. So let's get started. Of course, you'll just cut out those pattern pieces as I mentioned. You'll pick your fabrics and then we will get started. Now we wanted our bag to have some, of course, poof to it. So we used a fusible fleece or fusible batting, whichever works. I think we typically use the fusible fleece. It has a little bit less loft, but that's your preference. So the first thing you'll do with your pattern is note how it says place on the fold. So that's pretty straightforward. You know what to do with that, of course. And it doesn't matter whether your fabric is folded wrong side together or right side together. You would simply place this on your fold, pin and cut around, which will leave you with this shape. And you'll repeat the same for your, what I would call the lining fabric. Then with your piece of fusible fleece, what we've done, instead of having the fusible fleece, I want to show this to you. Instead of having the fusible fleece go all the way to the edge, which makes it quite bulky when you're sewing all the layers together, we brought the fusible fleece in by 1/4 inch, and that's indicated by the dashed lines. So that's not only your sewing line, but that's also where the edge of your fusible fleece will be. So in that instance, when you have your fusible fleece, when trying to trace on the fusible fleece the 1/4 inch, because it's like, how do you make, if this is the template, how do I trace a line that's 1/4 inch away? A couple things you could do is simply cut your pattern to now be where the dash line is, and then that's your new marking line, so to speak. So that's one thing that you could do, is just cut that away and trace around it. Or if you don't want to cut that, you can just trace with your friction pen where that dash line is, because I can see it all the way around, and cut it and then in half, and you would just pin that and cut it. You get the idea. A couple options there for cutting out the fleece. Once that's done, you'll go ahead and get your out, and we iron the fleece to the outside fabric. And you can see there's that 1/4 inch gap approximately from the fleece to the edge of the outer fabric. Then you'll take your lining fabric and we'll go ahead and place those right sides together and simply sew around that, leaving an opening at the bottom to turn. And we've done that ahead of time. Now before you turn, we found it handy to go ahead and just snip into that corner in here And also to just trim around so you have only about 1/8 of an inch seam. You don't get as much bulk then in the outside. Now, whenever I'm turning something through, I have a turning tool that I absolutely love. As I'm turning this through, of course you want that to be as smooth as you can. And it's sometimes just getting in those little corners that's hard to do. And that's why we have this little really economical tool. Just get it and put it in your sewing kit and you'll be so glad it's there. Especially if you're trying to get a point to be nice and pointed. You don't want it rounded at the tip. You'll want to go ahead and use one of these. So you get the idea. Just go in there with your tool, smooth everything out. And we've done that ahead of time, so you don't have to watch me do that step. And that's what we have here. Now, once you've turned it through, we just went and closed that opening. In fact, I'll show you on this one. You just go ahead, turn that through all the way, of course. Your opening's here, so you just turn that under your 1/4 of an inch, turn that under your 1/4 of an inch right here. I always like to pin that stuff so it's not going anywhere. And once you have everything all nice and smoothed out using your turning tool, then you'll simply come with an 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way around, and that'll close this opening. Now we wanted our bag to be quilted, so we simply grabbed our ruler. In fact, I've got one here. And I just sewed, I don't know if you can even see the quilting. You might see it easier on this side. I just used my friction pen and I began marking. And then as I go over, I might want, I don't know, 1.5 inch separation in my lines. I might want 1.25 inch separation in my lines. Just whatever you do, be consistent. And you'll draw those lines this way and then also this way. Same thing, drawing those lines. You'll go straight stitch down those lines and then you'll simply iron this away, which that's one of the things I absolutely love about the friction pen is with heat. It simply removes the marking. So now you're ready to go. Now inside our pouch is our little, I guess what I would call a pocket. So you will use your second page of your download, which is nothing more than a rectangle. And we used a lightweight interfacing. So you'll cut 2 out, either 2 of the same fabric or 1 of one fabric and 1 from another, but then also cut a lightweight interfacing and iron that to either one of those. It just gave our pouch pocket just a little bit more stability. Same thing, right sides together. Sew around 3 of the sides, leaving an opening here, and turn that right side through. And same as you did before, where you closed the opening, stitch 1/8 of an inch to close it up. Now, here we have our, notice this little slot here, and notice how nicely that's going to be our pocket. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and mark. Let's mark our center of our pocket, because of course we want to sew that so that there's an equal amount of pocket on this side as on this side. So I'm just going to mark that spot right there and right there. Connect those 2 dots. And you can see how it fits so nicely right in that notch. Just pin that into position. And we'll take this to our sewing machine. And you would just sew right down that line. And then once you're done, you can just hit that with an iron and that'll the heat will be gone. And we went ahead and did that ahead of time. It looks like we put this side up, which is great. And again, just hit that line with your heat and that'll be gone. So let's take that one, move that one out of the way. You're going to go back to your template. Now, I know it's kind of hard to visualize it now that it's open. Okay, so sometimes I have to go backwards to figure out where I am on this. These pockets are going to basically be sandwiched in here. Okay, I want to give you a visual on what it is that we're doing. So what you'll do at this point, and it might even be simpler for us to do it this way. Where we are in this is our little accordion pouch goes to the dashed line, and do you see these lines here? And we went ahead and pre-marked those, but that's, make sure we're all lined up. We're going to mark this, and we're going to mark this here. Now over on the other side, it doesn't work, right? So what you could do is either flip that, and I can still see the lines. In fact, I'll just draw that there and draw that there, like this. Or you can also flip that over so that it fits into that footprint again, and then I just lift up the edge and I mark where it is. What these lines are these are my targets. I'm going to lift up my, what will be my pocket, and you see that first mark. I'm going to sandwich that in between and pin. Okay. In fact, I want to take this to the sewing machine. I want you to see me do this. I'm going to sew from here to here about a ½ inch, definitely reinforcing that forward and backward a couple times. If you're uncomfortable, it's bulky. No question about that. You have to kind of talk your machine into doing that, so to speak. It's a little bit bulky. You can also do that by hand if you would prefer. But let's take it to the machine and see what we can do. I know this machine can handle it because it certainly made the sample. If you haven't used these Easy Cut scissors, I was introduced to these very recently by a friend. Oh my goodness, they're wonderful. And I love that the curved tip keeps me from accidentally cutting into my fabric. So you always want to cut with the scoop going upward so that when you're laying this like this, it helps you not cut into your fabric. They're wonderful. Very sharp, so be careful with those. You will repeat the same steps with the other notch. You'll come in here, again pinch, we're going to pin, same thing, stitch in your 1/4 inch, and you'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so let me take you to that stage. This is where we are. We pinched those 4 and we did the seam there. Now let me show you on this one. It's easier to show you on a live one we've already done. What I want to show you on this one, they look identical, but there's a little bit of a, we pinched this in here and also put a little stitch in. It just helps it accordion the way that it's supposed to. Otherwise you're kind of fighting this fabric in here. So what we did is just tuck that in, kind of lay that, and I thought it was, you know, it's supposed to accordion, so it should be even slightly smaller than what's above. So just put a pin here and a pin here, and we're just going to do another little stitch in from here to, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch, reinforce really, really well. And that's what we have here. Then all you need to do is simply get some sew-on snaps. Sew the snap on the top, one on the bag, and of course you would just close it with your snap closure, or you might have a magnetic closure that you like better. And then again, the rosette is the video at the end of this video, and that is all there is to making the accordion pouch with Shabby fabrics.